What advice would you give to someone looking to start their own business? And are there any particular resources that were helpful to you? I know you mentioned you had some help from a friend, but were there any books or particular people you got advice from?
It was advice from other people, but chosen people. I got a lot of unsolicited advice, which I discounted in the first second. It was stuff like, oh, you should make sandwiches, or oh, you're of Lebanese origin. Why aren't you also making Lebanese food? I'm like, what? I mean, so that kind of advice I didn't listen to, but I had really good advice from my dad at the time. So I was lucky in that because he knew more about business and how to read like a profit and loss account and what a balance sheet. I mean, I literally did not know any of that. So my advice is that one, of course, your product has to be great and you have to believe in the product and you need to stick kind of be true to it. Don't try and do too much. Don't say, well, I'm going to do this, but oh, people also want ice cream. I mean, even though we kind of did a bit of that in the beginning, but all of that fell by the wayside. Like you can only do a few things really well. Otherwise you're like spread thinly and you end up doing everything kind of mediocre level. So be focused, but also learn about the financial side of it so that no one can ever take advantage of you. So always get a bookkeeper in the beginning if you don't know how to do your books. So I had a bookkeeper that used to come in once a week and do everything. And that led to someone who was full-time, who was a finance manager and then a finance controller. But so finances, make sure whatever country you live in, you're paying your whatever tax, like here we have VAT, make sure your returns are done on time, that everything, like your books are kept properly done in case of any audit or anything like that. It sounds so boring, but we've never had issues that way. And I can see other companies or people that I've known like have had to close because they haven't done any of that. And it's like, well, that's like the first thing you should be doing, because that's how you know that you're doing well. If you have good like management accounts and stuff like that. Those are the main things I think, but also only follow the advice of people whose advice you trust, because otherwise you will be told opposite advice from 100 different people and then you'll be lost. So advice is good, but only if you know the person is on the same wavelength as you. I was also told before I opened the business that nobody in the UK cares about quality in food, and they don't care about, definitely not quality in dessert, and definitely not American desserts. Like American desserts are cheap and nasty and overly sweet and yuck, and it's going to be a failure. And I knew the person telling me that it wasn't coming from a good place, so I didn't listen to that. So sometimes you also have to not listen to negative advice. Yeah.
So I guess knowing what advice to ignore is just as important as.
Definitely so. And yeah, luckily I ignored most of the advice that I was given.
It's also interesting because everyone wants to hear the like little hacks and things, but actually the foundational advice
Yeah,
people
yeah,
love.
yeah. I literally don't know of any hacks that work or would have worked. I don't know. Like it's a slog. I mean, also if you are the business owner and you have employees, you have to, it's not forever, but you have to know how to do everything yourself. Like I was doing everything. I did have a manager of the shop from pretty much from day one, but it was like a good thing. She had to go home every day at 5 because she had a daughter and she had to make dinner for the daughter and the husband. So one of her stipulations was like, I can only work until 5 on the dot, but we didn't close until 5:30. So I was like, okay, well then I had to come in every day at 4 or something, and I would close up shop and I'd do the cashing up and I would help with the cleaning and clean the toilet and do all the horrible. And then I did the stock take for the months and months. Like every Monday we'd do a stock take because we were shut on Mondays. I would I did not everything all the time, but I knew how to do everything. And that was really important because if you don't know what to expect from other people that are working for you, then you'll be in trouble, because one is that could expect too much of them and say, well, I want 10 cakes done in X amount of time, which isn't feasible. Or the other way around, where, and I'm not to be like a parent, not to be like a paranoid business owner, but sometimes people will try and pull the wool over your eyes if they think, well, he doesn't know, I'm going to tell him it takes 5 hours when really it takes 2 hours. So there's a bit of both, that you should know how to do everything. And then when people who work for you see you doing the drudgery work and the grunt work, they will respect you more because they know you've also done it. So you're not just like swanning in and saying, everyone work harder, and then going home. So yeah, that's important.
Do you have any advice for making a profit or starting on a smaller scale in business?
Um, keep your costs really, really low. Don't get a glitzy office. Don't say, I'm going to spend thousands on PR, or I'm going to just be stingy in the beginning. That's the only thing, because you don't know what your sales are going to be like. I mean, all business plans that have forecasted sales, it's all BS really, because you do not know who's going to buy your stuff and how much you're going to sell. And it's a bit scary. You can forecast as much as you want, but how do you know? Like, how do you know? How did I know how many whole cakes I'm going to sell in a day or a week? It was impossible to know. So you have to keep your costs as minimal as possible. That's the only way.